Welcome to partialarc.com. Don't do that.
In the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war. And a lot of weird shit. Roll to seize!
Welcome to Roll to Seize. This is episode 2. I'm your host, Jay Jones, and I'm joined by my co-host and Warhammer enthusiast, Andrew Dickinger.
How's it going, everybody?
All right, well, this is our second episode, and last month we talked a little bit about the Joe Caro and their zany geographical ships and fly things.
Those crazy brainy monkey thingies.
Brainy monkey things. And we also talked about how Andrew and I like to kill our own units in the game. Mine was a destroyer lord, and I believe you blew up a bunch of your broadsides.
I mean, like is a strong word. You could say dislike as well, but happens quite often, I would say.
And while we're on the topic, I'll be kicking off this episode's Seize the Month, as we spoke about in the first episode. If you're just joining us, Seize the Month is each month Andrew and I share a kind of major mistake or kind of...
a blunder.
Yeah, or a huge misstep we had in Warhammer, and kind of talk about... hopefully how we could have fixed it, and really just how absolutely terrible it was. So for this month, I'm going to kick off Seize of the Month with a little skirmish I had with my Eldar between me and an Imperial Guard player. So I'll set the scene. So I've got my Eldar army. We're all, my army's in Wave Serpents. Surprise. Surprise, surprise. And this time I wanted to try a new list, unlike what you might see normally, or maybe you do, who knows. But I was trying a Wraithguard list.
Well, you probably saw Wraithguard when the Codex first came out, and then as the time went on, people started to wean more against Wraithguard than actually using them.
Right. Not as many Ghost Warriors out there these days, but I said, why not? Get some Spiritseers, let's see how this goes. So I've got 2 Wave Serpents, each filled with a squad of 5 Wraithguards and a Spiritseer. So my 2 Wave Serpents are flying up. I've got a Wave Serpent in the back providing back support, and Imperial Guard sends forward their big, lumbering Imperial Knight. Now,
because what army doesn't have an Imperial Knight?
Yeah, what army can't benefit from a giant frickin' murder robot?
Murder robots!
Yeah, with D-weapons and rules that don't follow normal vehicle rules. But that's the thing for another time.
Story for a different day.
Story for a different day. So the big lumbering Imperial Knight charges up, like of course you would expect it to do, and it is getting in position to charge. It's going to charge me in the next turn. So I've got 1 turn to take this thing out. So of course I've got 2 Wave Serpents filled with Wraithguard, Strength 10 weapons. Let's do this.
Yeah, Strength 10 AP2 should have a very good chance of taking it down.
Oh yeah. So I flank it. I've got a Wave Serpent on the left of it. I've got a Wave Serpent on the right of it. Because if you know, Imperial Knights have this fancy shield where they can put it on either side, and they can do a 3-up invul on the side that they choose from.
Well, it's actually a 4-up invul. It's a 3-up invul for the commander.
Oh, okay.
Imperial Knights. But yeah, they have to choose a facing at the start of the phase. And the enemy phase, essentially, and be like, this facing, not including the back, has an energy shield for this turn, because reasons.
And obviously the advantage here is I've got a Wraithguard squad on one side, I've got a Wraithguard on the other side. He can't really choose. If he chooses one, I'm still going to have no protection on the other side. Perfect case scenario, right?
Yeah.
So it's my movement phase. They get out of the Wave Serpents. They position like a few inches away from him, so they're within 12-inch range of their big Strength 10 guns. I'm ready to fire. Psychic phase comes around. Now, I was like, let's do some psychic powers. Why not? I've got my Spiritseers. I've got like invisibility, which is amazing psychic power. I can throw it on my Wraithguard, so after I easily blow up this Imperial Knight, my guys will be invisible. They're not going to get blown away. So my Spiritseer channels the warp energies to cast invisibility, and I don't know what he saw or what he tapped into. You can all use your imagination.
Well, the warp, I mean.
Yeah, he saw the warp for what it really was, and he perilled. I got it all. I cast it. I got it off, but I perilled. So, not a big deal. It happens a lot when you're rolling a lot of dice. So I roll for Perils of the Warp, and I roll a 1. Now, for any of you that know the Perils of the Warp table, 1 is the worst possible result you can get. 1 means you take a leadership test, and if you fail the leadership test, you're Psyker basically is removed from the table. He explodes.
He detonates.
Yeah, basically, and can kill people around him. So I'm like, okay, this is bad, but I just roll a leadership test. These guys are leadership 9. This should be fine. Roll, and I think I rolled like an 11 or a 12. Failed the leadership. So now I've got my Spiritseer is blowing up. He's dead immediately. But now I have to see he does a Strength 6 AP 1 like blast hit to the
D6,
squad. I think
right?
it's a D6 to the squad. I roll a 6. So I do 6 Strength 6 AP 1 hits to my Wraithguard squad. There's only 5 of them left. I roll fantastically well, and in one turn I kill my entire Wraithguard squad. So I've gone from being, yeah, this is a great tactic, I'm gonna take down this Imperial Knight, just do a little invisibility, and just explode, detonate, kill an entire squad of Ghost Warriors.
Now, there's a lot of mixed feelings right now with regards to the psychic phase.
Yeah.
Those of you who probably play and have, like, you either go one of two ways. You either have, like, a crap ton of psychers, and so you can just basically overpower any psyker you go against, or you don't have enough, and you're like, maybe I'll get a power off here and there. All it takes, though, is one time for it to go horribly wrong for you to be like, I am never going to use psychers again.
Yeah. And I have to say that this list on this particular day of games kind of put a sour taste in my mouth, just because now, as you can imagine, it was very easy for the Imperial Knight to choose, which squad am I going to protect against? Is it the flaming debris carcasses on my left, or is it going to be the standing squad on my right? And yeah, that was not a proud moment.
Yeah, and of course, going into that as well, you not only vaporized 300 plus points of your army, but unlike last month's episode, where at least our units got to fight first, you should listen to that episode and hear those crazy stories. But this one, you didn't even get to use them yet.
I didn't even get to shoot. Nothing. I was just casting invisibility. Like, yeah, I don't know how invisibility could have gone so wrong. Turned them inside out, exploded them, whatever.
It made them totally invisible.
Totally invisible to all of reality.
Yes.
To basically just detonate it, exploded.
It sucked them into the warp.
Yeah,
it's okay.
So that was my Cease of the Month. Andrew, what's yours?
All right, so my passion army for a long time has been Tyranids. I ran a sort of silly, not totally serious list in the last tournament.
And it was you're basically a Highlander army.
It was Highlander, yes. It was each unit was individual. There were no repeats, no copy pasta, no redundancy anywhere. Just they're all just monsters and doing their own thing. I got max points in the first round and got matched against a guy with max points who also happened to be a Dark Eldar player, which you, as a monstrous creature player, you love. All those poison shots. I mean, yeah, the poison is just my best friend. It's just like going into this, I was just like, this was the only Dark Eldar player in the tournament.
Yeah.
And
as long as I don't get paired up with that guy, I'm going to be okay.
And of course, I get paired up with that guy, and I look at the tournament organizer, and he gives me a wink, and so I was like, all right, you know what? I'll just try and have fun. I'm probably going to lose. Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, luck goes my way in the beginning. And I managed to not only grab deployment first turn, get to pick my side and get first turn, which is good because I can essentially alpha strike if possible.
Right.
But I also managed to nab the warlord trait that allows my warlord and 3 other units in my army to infiltrate, which is nice. With a mainly melee or close quarters oriented army is fantastic.
And nothing is scarier than monsters but sneaky monsters.
Yes, and 4 of them all in your face.
Yeah, that's not good.
So he sees that I have this, of course, and it's not like secret to my opponent. And
just covering it and surprise.
Yes, just cover the board with a
hey, just go get some water. Just come back in a minute.
Boom.
And ha.
So I set up my army accordingly, and he was smart. He was running a Venom spam list, which once again is also like the antithesis to the army I was running, because Venoms have a crap ton of
poison shots.
12 apiece, in fact.
That's a small amount?
That's a small number, I would say. Yeah.
Per tiny little boat.
Tiny little 2 whole point boat. Yeah. 12 shots at 36-inch range.
It's just a floating Gatling gun is what it is.
I mean, I imagine it's just anti-grav generators attached to a gun.
I don't know why. I imagine they all listen to that music day in and day out. It's what's driven them crazy.
Oh, I mean, that makes sense.
It does make sense, right? All Dark Eldar players out there like, what?
Once again, as a Tyrannid player, one of the keys to the army in the new codex is flying Hive Tyrants. If you're not using flying Hive Tyrants, you're doing something wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, I've nabbed first turn, so that allows me to essentially start my fly, essentially, because if I hadn't had first turn, he would have been able to really do some serious damage to me, but because I'm able to fly, that means...
You can get in his face right away.
And I'm more untouched. It's a lot harder to engage, specifically my flying Hive Tyrant. And, I do reasonably well on my first turn. Second turn comes about. I forgot to mention this. His Warlord trait was a -1 to all of my reserve rolls. Mm. And I also forgot about the ongoing reserves rule. So...
This will come into play, we're sure.
This might
be something we should remember.
This might be important later on. Second turn rolls around, and for whatever stupid reason, I decide that flying my Hive Tyrant off the board, because reasons, is the best plan.
Something whispered in your, I will fly it off the side of the board.
I mean, I guess I was worried about all of the poison shots, but then I didn't take into the fact that he has no Skyfire. He can only hit me on 6s.
Right.
And then he can only wound me on 4s, and I still get armor saves, and then if that still manages to do a wound to me, then I just take one test and maybe he falls down.
And on a 3-up, you're fine.
On a 3-up, I'm fine. And
there has to be a series of bad things to happen to you for this to be bad, and you were just like, I'm getting out of here.
Yeah, essentially, like I don't know what my thinking was, because also this Hive Tyrant was also my best offensive weapon against his vehicles.
Right. I mean, they're all paper.
10 armor with 12 strength 6 rounds
and 2 hull points. Like you can just pull them away.
He has a very high probability of killing at 1 a turn, just instantly. And so, yeah, like an idiot, I fly my Hive Tyrant off the board.
Nice.
So the game progresses. My opponent was equally baffled by this decision.
Is it an eclipse? What's going on outside?
Yeah. And so the game progresses, and, once again, I forget about the ongoing reserves rule, which is if something goes into ongoing reserves, it just automatically appears.
Comes in the next turn.
I think it's just like regular reserves.
I gotta roll some 3-ups.
I gotta roll. And he has the -1 to the reserve roll, so I roll a 3.
Quote unquote, it is, but not really 4-ups.
Yes. So I roll, and I get a 3, of course, which then makes it a 4, so the Hive Tyrant doesn't come in. Mm-hmm. Even though it's supposed to automatically.
Even though it would.
And then the next turn, I roll a...
Come on, coach, put me in the game.
Next turn, I also roll a 3, which is also a 4.
So really just like the worst thing you could roll to like tease you, just to be like... You son of a bitch, this would be coming in. Just
think of how bad I felt, or how stupid I should say, felt after the game to realize, ongoing reserves.
He would have been in for 2 turns.
Right. That thing that happens.
So sad.
Yeah, so that was my season month. My Hive Tyrant basically not coming in ever during the game, being there first turn to kill one thing, and then basically never coming in again.
Yay, you're Warlord.
And I know I lost.
Yeah, probably.
I think it was kind of my own doing, but oh well.
We imagine he flew up to the front. He's like, I'm getting the fuck out of here. I don't like any of that.
I don't know if he was like drinking heavily the night before or something like that.
What would Tyrannids drink? Is it just poison? Like, I mean, he's shooting devours. Maybe they can get drunk on poison.
Biomass gruel? I don't know.
Whatever that looks like. I really don't want to see what a Tyrannid party would look like. It's probably disgusting.
And very, very violent.
Very violent. Oh, jeez.
Gross.
All right. Well, that was a great or sad season of the month, however you want to look at it. All right. Well, that brings us on to our next segment. We're going to go visit now Greg in the Brown Library. All right, here we are in the Brown Library with our caretaker, Greg?
Yeah, I guess. Thanks for letting us in, Greg.
Thanks,
again.
Greg. He's very, very accommodating. And for everyone who hadn't checked out our previous episode, the Brown Library is a segment where we find some of the obscure and kind of crazy lists that we might create ourselves or find out there in the Warhammer community and some of the weird fluff that goes with it. And now, what are we talking about today?
All right, so last month we talked about something a little more on the silly side of 40K, and as we know, there's a little bit less silly and a lot more kind of...
You're telling me the Grimdark is filled with serious stories and fluff?
Occasionally.
Occasionally.
Not often, but it happens.
All right, everyone put on your sad faces. Here we go.
So the thing I want to talk about this episode is a character very few people, other than probably you because I talk about him so much, but very few people who have faced Tyranids know about, called the Deathleaper.
Yes. I hate him so.
Now, the Deathleaper, he was way worse in the previous edition, before the new Psychic phase, because he has... The Deathleaper, sorry, I should take a step back and do a brief synopsis of what this character is. The Deathleaper is essentially the super lictor. What a lictor is imagine in Tyranids in the 40K universe, it's a giant alien praying mantis. Like, blends into the environment, super fast, giant barbed claws on its shoulders, and a death machine in close combat.
Basically, if the Predator from the Predator movies had nightmares, it would be filled with the lictor.
It's almost like a Predator and an alien baby. Like, as in Xenomorph alien baby. So, yeah, it's...
Cute. Very cuddly.
And that's just normal. That's just a normal lictor. Now, the Deathleaper is essentially like the Uber lictor.
The Ubermensch. The Uberlichter.
It was the hive mind, the Gestalt consciousness that controls all of the Tyranid race, bred this specifically to be its most cunning and most lethal super assassin. And the reason I wanted to bring him up is because one thing that a lot of people don't really understand about Tyranids is that they're not just these mindless, ferocious eating beasts. Like, they're in fact very cunning, super smart, and brutal, yes, in their tactics, but deliberate. Like, they don't just go and eat everything they can. Like the
food. It's nothing like that.
No, the consciousness behind the army is actually really intense and super smart. And so it bred this super warrior called Deathleaper to destabilize governments, believe it or not.
Now, did it, like, your name is Deathleaper, or did someone else name it that?
So, yeah, it actually comes from a story about an imperial world.
Okay.
That's had a very religious hierarchy.
Okay.
Like, the government was mainly... because the Imperium in general is very religious.
Their
by
emperor
nature.
They see as a god.
As a god that they worship and stuff like that.
A lot of people wear robes.
But you have, like, the more militaristic states, and then you have the states that are like, faith will win out in the end type of thing. And this is the more of the latter, which was essentially just you had a cardinal that was in command of the planet and their spiritual voice. And so, all of a sudden, this was the first recorded instance of this creature, Deathleaper, appearing. It started on the outskirts of the city, hunting down and killing all these leaders within the Imperial Guard, the standard armed forces of the Imperium.
Now, was it killing whole squads or just, like, individual people?
Like, really selectively picking out officers.
Oh, wow.
And... no one would even know that they were gone. Like, it was so efficient in killing these people that it would take them, it would drain their brains, because that's what lictors do, to gain information. It literally can drink.
I have to say, I immediately went to the scene from Starship Troopers.
Starship Troopers,
where
of course.
The thing goes in that guy's head and he sucks out the... Oh, man.
I'll eat your brains and gain your knowledge.
If nobody knows what we're talking about, why not have a great evening and Google Sucking Out Brains Starship Troopers on Google?
Or just watch the movie. It's a fun movie, too.
It is a great movie.
But yes, lictors go very hand in hand with the comment, eat your brains and gain your knowledge.
Nice.
And so it's been doing this to all these Imperial officers, and that's where it got its name. Essentially they're trying to name their fear, what everybody on the planet was like jumping at shadows at now, because they had no idea what this thing was, and so they just decided leaps out of the jungle and brings death, Deathleaper. But here's where the brilliance comes in with regards to the intelligence behind this thing. It understood that the voice of the people was this cardinal in control of the planet. And so the plan it devised to destabilize the planet was super cunning. It realized if it killed the cardinal, it would just make a martyr of him and unify the planet even harder against the oncoming Hive fleet. So instead, what it would do is wait till the cardinal thinks he's safe with his bodyguards and stuff like that, jump in, kill everyone else but the cardinal, and then just disappear.
So just to kind of like mess with him or drive him crazy?
Yeah, to just essentially start driving him crazy. Like it would kill everyone, then just stare at him and disappear into the jungle.
I have to imagine when he was coming with this plan, he was in the forest, his like tentacle fingers being like, yes, this will be the plan.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, totally. That's what that character is. It's ridiculous. So he does this a number of times, like 3 or 4 times, and it works flawlessly. It gets to the point where the cardinal...
So they keep bringing in more people to like surround him, and he just keeps killing them?
Because he gets more and more paranoid because he's like, why the hell won't this thing kill me?
I have to imagine that job had to be really hard to take after like the 3 previous dudes who died in your position.
And just like, oh man, what happened to the last guys? Oh, don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it.
Fine.
They're like still mopping the floor up. It's like, no, don't worry about it.
They're fine.
Meanwhile, the cardinal's just like, the monster will eat us all.
Yeah, and so
background.
You can surmise that essentially after the 3rd or 4th time that this happens, it gets to the point where the cardinal basically goes batshit crazy and expresses his batshit craziness to the rest of the planet, which then makes them all batshit crazy.
Right. I scrawled this on my toilet paper in my feces. Let us talk about the evil thing that hides in the shadows. That's on today's sermon. Just like, I think this guy's a little nuts.
I don't know. I kind of agree with him.
I think I'm on board with this shit shadow monster.
But yeah, so this thing just amazing that the one creature, that probably very few people have actually heard of in loose passing.
That's part of his allure.
And which is also amazing that it's worked that way into the actual playable game.
Playable game itself. I imagine someone playing a game being like, what's the Deathleaper? It's like, oh, you'll find out. It's like, no, really, what are the rules? It's like, don't worry. It's like, come on, man. It's like, all right, here, fine. All right,
hey, here's the rules. And that's where so coming back to where we first started, I was talking about this cool rule that he had. Less effective now in this edition, but he had a rule literally called It's After Me. And the It's After Me rule was, at the beginning of the game, Deathleaper was able to select an enemy character and reduce its leadership by a D3. And so against like enemy psychers and stuff like this, when leadership actually played an important role in casting psychic powers.
Coming from an Eldar player, let me tell you, turning my leadership 10 or 9 characters into 6 or 7 would be a nightmare.
Yeah, I mean, you'd almost never get psychic powers off. It would be very rare. So he was super useful in that way. He still has that rule, and it still reflects like he can reduce leadership of things, and it works part and parcel to other units in the codex. But just the idea of this super death-killing machine that no one's ever heard of, and his sole purpose is to destabilize governments. I mean, you think about it. One organism managed to destabilize an entire planet.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty impressive.
That's like efficiency at its like...
And it's also not like what you'd imagine is like, a Calidus assassin or a Vindicare assassin, just like picking off specific people,
or like a chaos infestation. You have somebody getting possessed and then like sowing like heresy and stuff like that. Like it's that. This is just one thing. Just it doesn't get any help from anything else. And it does it at close quarters, too. Like, you'd think, like, they would be able to just erect firewalls or something, like literal walls of fire.
I'm sure they have that technology.
Like, yeah, because why wouldn't they have that technology to stop this thing? But apparently that's not even enough. So, yeah, it's just impressive to me. And, like I said, most people don't think, when they think of NIDS, they think of the
mindless eating machines.
Gribblies, as what the coin term for them. Gribblies is essentially just the chittering, munching little hungry monsters.
Yeah.
And no real intelligence behind them. And there is terrible intelligence.
Terrible stuff. If predators and aliens had a baby and it was raised by Hannibal Lecter and the Joker, I don't know.
And like, I guess like the League of Shadows.
The League of Shadows, basically. Oh man, that would be the worst, baby.
It's like, yeah, that would be
terrifying.
That would be awful.
It is terrifying. The Deathleaper is terrifying.
Yeah,
and you were saying before, like, its powers are. I think that's awesome that its power is named after, like, all of everything. His name and his powers come from people's fears, interactions with it.
It's meant to be a living nightmare. Like, that's how it was designed. Was meant to be a living nightmare.
That's awesome.
And so the idea stemming off of this Deathleaper.
Okay.
I was coming up with this idea of this list that I call Whisper in Your Ear. The name of the list is called Whisper in Your Ear. And now
when you read it to someone at the beginning of a game and they ask you what your list is, you must take this list and whisper it in their ear. This is really weird, man. It's like, no. Okay, the next troop choice is... my elite choice is...
Exactly. So then, so the idea I came up with behind this was just like, make it super in your face, go off the fluff, keep it themed, like our last with the Jokero and stuff.
Which, look, we can all copy and paste, and there's enough stuff out there to make things that are like, this is effective, just do it. But, like, man, it is fun to do just crazy fluffy lists.
Yeah, just base it off of themes. Like, everybody can do min-max competitive lists. Like, you just go on the forums anywhere and, like, learn what the best units are, the worst units are, or by personal experience know what they are.
Right.
But if you're following a singular theme and, like, you almost role play within that theme with your army, it's just way more fun.
Oh, yeah.
Because then it's just like, especially when it wins, then it just, like, spreads it.
Yes.
So the idea that I came up for this list was a list entirely composed of, like, oncoming terrors.
Okay.
And so you have Deathleaper. He's your leader. And, you know, it's after me at the beginning of the game. You're just like, it's after him.
Like, just someone standing out, like, in the middle of the night, just, like, quiet, hearing some cicadas, or whatever the fuck a cicada would be in Warhammer universe. Whatever the hell kind
space cicadas.
Terrible space cicadas are. And just, like, one thing moves in the distance. It's just like,
so it's like you see a shadow, because that's the beauty of it, is he can't start on the board. He has to arrive from reserve. So that's, like, even more so.
He doesn't even infiltrate in first turn.
It's odd because he has infiltrate, but he can't.
But he can't infiltrate.
He can't use it. I guess the infiltrate is just there to give him scout.
Okay.
Maybe, or not scout, sorry, outflank.
Sure.
Another misstep by Games Workshop.
I guess they have to. Like, how do we give him it without actually writing it in there? Let's just give him infiltrate, blah, blah,
blah. So it adds even more so to the, like I imagine, like, he points the commander, and the commander sees him emerge from the smoke, only to back into the smoke while pointing at him.
While pointing, you. Just slowly walk away. It's like, what the fuck was that?
And so the theme is that everything either arrives from reserve or has infiltrate built in.
Nice.
So the entire army is Deathleaper, and then a bunch of full Lictor squads. Lictors are the mini Deathleapers.
How many Lictors can you have in a squad?
They can have 3 apiece, but if you take the formations, the added
is there a Lictor
rules,
formation?
There are 2 Lictor formations, in fact. There is one that's arguably not as good because it gives you a lot of kill points if you play kill point games.
Okay.
But if you don't play kill point games, it's actually pretty good. It's called, believe it or not, Deathleaper's Hunter Brood.
Perfect.
Which is essentially just Deathleaper and 5 individual Lictors.
Is that the formation you would use for this, or?
I actually would not.
Okay.
Only because
it gives you a limited number of Lictors, basically.
And I mean the rules. It's just odd. Well, first it has Deathleaper built into it, and because Deathleaper is built into it, then essentially, and the rules are sketchy with this right now with formations, but that would mean that he can't fill your compulsory HQ choice.
Okay.
So, you wouldn't, if you have him as your HQ choice, then you can't have that brood. If you have him in that brood, then you can't take him as your HQ.
Weird.
And he's the HQ that makes the most sense to take.
Right, obviously.
And then, so you have all these little Lictor squads. You can have a formation that's 5 Lictors in a squad.
What?
It's just called Lictor Forest Brood.
Just clump.
It's just a 5 brood of Lictors.
I don't know why that name just went Lictor Force Brood. Damn, the worst Saturday morning cartoon for children.
Yes.
Lictor Force Brood.
He just follows. What's that in the jungle, Johnny? I don't know. It's kind of, oh god,
just terribly violent. Like, just kids just sitting there like, I don't know if we're supposed to watch this. The worst Saturday morning cartoon.
The look on that parent's face when he walks in.
I've made a mistake.
Yes. So, you have, most of the army is composed of lictors, and then you have this other unit called genestealers, which we can get into in a different day, that also have infiltrate. But the point is that you have this entire army basically deploying right in front of your enemy at the beginning of the game. And it's just like, you just whisper, it's coming.
You have one turn.
So, target saturation, it's just a silly idea. You think about that. Think about the terror aspect of that, where you essentially, even if he gets first turn, he's like, I don't deploy anything.
Yeah.
You're like, what? It's like, everything is infiltrating or deep striking. Okay. So you think about that. In technical terms, that's actually pretty amazing, because that makes it so your opponent can't counter deploy at all.
Can't alpha strike, can't really do anything. They're just like, well, I will wait.
I guess I'll put stuff here? Maybe?
This tree looks good.
Like, that building looks safe. Is it safe?
Is it safe, though? I mean, you could put him there, I guess. But maybe, well, no, yeah. We'll see.
That's okay.
Just put them there. Stop fucking with me.
Yeah, I mean, so that's the obvious theme of the army, is to just fuck with your opponent, and just put so much shit right in his face that it's just like, well, I guess I have to deal with as much as I can, or I'll have everything.
Hope you have flamethrowers. Good luck.
And the beauty of it is that you can assault the first turn.
Oh, that's right.
Because it's the second player turn. That can assault, or the second game turn that you can assault. So if you actually want to go second, because that allows you to infiltrate right in his face and assault on the first turn.
So really, you have a high advantage of this, because can't you, if you win the die roll, you can say, I want to choose to go second, right?
Exactly.
So literally, and usually when people win, they want to go first because they want to alpha strike.
And depending on your rules, I mean, it allows you to pick sides and alpha strike the other army, and picking sides can be very important, terrain-wise.
Not when you're the whole infiltrating.
Not when you're whole infiltrating army, and everything doesn't even touch your side of the board.
Basically.
So ridiculousness, like I actually thought about this. I was like, wow, this actually could work. And one thing that's funny is, I mentioned genestealers. Genestealers are never used these days, because in most circles they'd be regarded as terrible.
And we love talking about using units that nobody ever uses.
That nobody never uses, which includes Deathleaper and Lictors. And, I was thinking about this, like, even against Imperial Knights, these things that that Jay had even mentioned in his Seas of the Month, these death killer robot machine things.
Even when they die, they kill like half your army.
Yeah. I was like, wow, could this army even deal with them? And I was like, holy crap. They totally can, because everything in the army has rending claws.
Yeah.
So it was just like, wow, they actually have a really high probability of killing knights in close combat.
Just jumping on top of these giant things, just shredding them
just
slowly.
So I was just like, wow, this actually could be very entertaining and surprisingly really nasty.
And really funny.
Really funny. Oh, man. I would love to just see the look on my opponent's face when I'm like, oh, yes, I won the roll. I'm going second. They're like, what? You're going second as Nids.
Do you have any jet bikes? I don't.
Interesting.
Well, I love it, dude. I love this list. And what is this, the name of it?
It's called A Whisper in Your Ear.
Whisper in Your Ear. All right. And remember, if you do decide to go forward with this list, you must whisper the entire army list in your opponent's ear.
Creep them out. Can I see your list?
Okay. HQ choice is...
guy, you're uncomfortably close to me. I need personal space.
No, I need to be this close. I'm sorry. Should I get an outdoor? All right, I'll come back in a second. Awesome. All right. Well, fantastic. Everyone, that was our segment for Brown Library for this month. And we shall now close the doors and move on to our next segment, the Dakka of Dakkas.
So the Dakka of Dakkas this month is actually playing off the same theme with regards to lictors.
Okay.
And a player on Dakka of Dakkas had this to say: Lictor is the compilation of a pile of crap and a stepped-on bug combined together and then thrown out the window. Now, I don't exactly know how that implies what it's supposed to be.
It sounds like at the very least they're not big fans of Lictor.
I mean, I guess you can surmise that they don't find... They're not very fond of them. They don't find them to be very attractive in the Codex.
Right.
But man, whisper in your ear, maybe that'll change some people's minds and be like, holy crap, those things are scary.
It might be really scary. Awesome. All right. Well, that was great. Well, That was episode 2 of Roll to Seize. We'll be posting a new episode every month. If you'd like to download more episodes or check out other similar podcasts, for example, we're just about to launch this coming Monday our new podcast, Blockbuster Punch-Up. If you like new big blockbusters and want to hear more, check it out. So head over to partialarc.com. That's arc with a C. Of course, you can email us any questions at rolltoseize@gmail.com or follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Roll to Seize. And be sure to head to dakkadakka.com and go to Roll to Seize blog to share your own seizes of the month. Thanks for listening, and your fun fact for this month is...
No matter how deadly things get in 40K, the deadliest thing in the universe happens to be a giant toad.
What?
There's a poisonous toad that...
What does it kill, gods?
It explodes and kills everything within a number of kilometers.
A number of kilometers?
Kilometers.
So, do they naturally explode, or it's like their defense mechanism?
They get, startled, and they get threatened, and they're so poisonous, they kill themselves in the process?
That is the worst defense mechanism I've ever heard of. What kind of evolutionary tree was that?
I don't know. It's on Catachan. Catachan has a lot of crazy shit.
That explains it.